Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
If I told you it gets worse. This dude claims to be in possession of some of the Diddy tapes. And he says that some of them are so disturbing that if he put them out, the entire music industry would crumble. Take a look at this.
If I showed one of these tapes, I'm telling you right now, the whole music industry and Hollywood, it would just grind down like this. They're all going to start pointing at each other like this, and it's going to be bad. We've already set it up. We have multiple attorneys. We know how to do it. It's not my first rodeo. I solved the greatest murder case in history. 3 of them. I know how to do it. We're going to do it, but just going to come in pieces. And there's also ways we can, let's say, not censor it, but we can kind of soften it.
My main takeaway from that clip is the fact that they're already prepared to bring everybody down. The fact that everything is already set up. It's not like they're out here chasing people or trying to figure things out. This is all ready to go. I just think that the information might be so shocking that they have to be careful with the public.
I'll believe it when I see it, and I don't say that because I don't believe the accusations. I'm saying that because I'm tired of people saying they have footage that's too shocking for the public. Release the footage and let us decide if it's too shocking or not. I'm ready to see these 6 celebrities fall from grace. Quit prolonging it. Show us who these people really are.
Weeknd just performed a concert in Brazil, and there was a lot of symbolism. Starting with the stage he was performing on, many speculated that this was supposed to be representative of a church because of the windows and the crosses all over the building. Now when the concert first started, it was him with his hands out in the bright light. After that, the dancers slowly started to come in their red robes, and this is when everything went red. Behind him, a visual appears. It seems like it's a man in a glass box trying to be freed or something. Now, something I noticed about his concerts and performances is that many times his dancers are the same. They're wearing these red robes and they all do the same movements. Speaking of robes, he wore one himself and it had a lot of detail. I'm not sure what any of it means, but if you know anything about it, comment down below. Something interesting I noticed was this backdrop here. At first I thought it was a phoenix or something like that, but then it zooms in and you can see a shadow in the middle of it, almost like it's a person.
Another clear example of these celebrities performing rituals and stuff on an unknowing audience. People gotta stop going to these concerts. It looks like he's performing some sort of a satanic ritual and putting a curse on his audience or something. Even if he's not, if this is the type of imagery that he wants to subject you to, does he really even care about his audience at all? It seems like the goal, at the very least, is to have you leave feeling like you took part in something evil. Why would they intentionally subject you to that?
Something doesn't feel right about these 40 monkeys escaping the biolab. I feel like we're not being told something. It's at the Alpha Genesis Primate Research Center, Yamasi. And I feel like this is the start of some kind of science fiction movie or something bad, like some kind of, I don't know. They won't even tell us what kind of monkeys they are. They just say there's 40. I'm surprised there's not 41 or 42 or 39. There's 40 exactly. But doesn't it feel like the start of something like 28 Days Later or 12 Monkeys or maybe even that movie from 1995, Outbreak? I don't know, because they're from a biolab, so are they healthy, happy monkeys? Or is it going to turn into some kind of sci-fi future with it being a little bit like Outbreak? Maybe it's a good time to go back and watch this movie. Here's the synopsis. Let's hope this doesn't happen. Worst case, guys. Let's hope they catch those monkeys and everything's good.
I thought this was an old story, but it's still developing. I looked it up, and there's actually 43 monkeys that have escaped. I think the guy has good reason to be scared. With all the secret gain-of-function research that the United States does, having anything escape from a lab is going to be terrifying. There's no telling what those things are infected with. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this type of content, I post a new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back on Monday to join me. Also, don't forget to check out my merch store at www.barry-stepp.com.
So they found a whale skeleton in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and they don't really know how it got there. Well, they actually found more than one. As a matter of fact, close to 1,000 whale skeletons were uncovered in this part of the desert, first found in 1902, with a near-perfect skeleton, almost fully intact, discovered as recently as 2016. Some claim it may be an indicator of a certain lost civilization that got swept by the sea. Because about 5 to 10,000 years ago, science shows the entire Sahara Desert was actually a luscious green oasis, and even hosted what what would be the largest lake in the world, known as Lake Megachad. Yeah, really, that's what it's called, and it was bigger and deeper than any other lake on Earth. Except, last I checked, whales don't really live in lakes. Even the biggest lake in the world, the Caspian Sea, which, yes, it's called a sea, but it's technically considered the world's largest lake, has no whales. Oceans have whales. But the only way they could have ever reached this far inland into the Sahara where their bones were found is if the area was completely submerged by the ocean. Which is exactly what would have happened if something like, I don't know, worldwide cataclysms that reset civilization and flooded kingdoms like Atlantis went down. But I don't know, it's just a theory. The Sahara Desert is one of the least studied places on Earth due to its harsh climate and politically unstable regions. This area in particular has come to be known as Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales, located in Egypt and may hold many other secrets that are going to take decades to uncover. But the real craziest part is that scientists claim this green Sahara 5,000 years ago was just the most recent out of over 200 green periods the desert's been through over the past couple million years, meaning it's statistically inevitable that a green Sahara desert will happen again.
I think that makes perfect sense. If the floodwaters brought whales into the area, but then receded too fast for the whales to move back out to the ocean, that would be the only logical explanation for how they all got there. Just shows you just how deep those floodwaters were. Certainly doesn't sound like something somebody could hide from. I just hope I'm not around for the next cataclysmic event.
So let me give you an update on what's going on with North Carolina because the media isn't doing this. Hi, welcome to my news channel. I go by Conscious Juice. Do you see this brown, dirty, murky water over here, y'all? They found out that the rivers in North Carolina is flowing in the opposite direction, and they are finding these strange geometric shapes on top of the water, these frequency lines. Y'all see what I'm saying? Y'all see these?
What does that mean? I don't know. I'm hoping someone's going to explain it. So which way did the river used to go? Keep going that direction. Well, you want to walk down here? Okay. You're going to see it changed direction. It's odd.
Not only that, there is also a toxic aroma in the air and also in the mud, so powerful that it's literally disintegrating boots. The theory is it's actually the lithium mixed with the cadaver bacteria that's actually disintegrating the boot.
The mud is so toxic, it's disintegrating the boots of people trying to clean up. So we have a real problem in our river that was the purest and cleanest water in the world is now completely toxic and disintegrating people's boots. Yeah, it's bad. We're in a very bad situation, and they're having nosebleeds and coughing up blood. So anybody near these things is in serious trouble.
Where do all these toxins come from?
So the mud is toxic, the air is toxic, but the media is not talking about this to warn people to tell them to stop going to North Carolina. And if you've been on TikTok lately, you've been seeing people going to North Carolina to help people out. Do y'all believe some?
My mind is running wild with conspiracy theories watching this. Like, what if they're intentionally poisoning the area to get the people to leave, to stop people from wanting to rebuild, so they can seize all that land to dig for lithium? Clearly, I have no way of knowing if that's the case, and I'm certainly not making that claim. But this whole situation gets more and more suspicious at every turn.
There's a lot of weirdness in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, did you ever read the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yes, yeah.
Is there any references to anything that's similar, like Annunaki type characters, the Nephilim, or anything like that in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
They show up everywhere. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the Enuma Elish, and the Epic of Atrahasis. Of course, even in the Bible, they're known as the Anak, A-N-A-K. We were grasshoppers in their eyesight, it says in the biblical text. So when you start analyzing the text, you discover that there was an encampment in a place called South Africa at Adam's Calendar. Now, at Adam's Calendar, there's actually the very first gold mines discovered. They're dating them back to about 200,000 years ago. Now, in the tablets, it talks about the fact that the Ijiji, who were the working-class Annunaki beings who were cleaning out the Euphrates and Tigris River, they were doing the actual construction themselves. No people needed.
You know, with all the references that we have to the Anunnaki and all these ancient texts, the one point that I keep coming back to that really makes me believe there's something to that story is that the Sumerians claimed that the Anunnaki were here to mine gold to fix their atmosphere. To my understanding, it wasn't even until around the year 2000 that we realized that you could use gold to fix a bad atmosphere. I think they only recently discovered that while trying to fix the global warming issue. That's huge evidence in my eyes.
Welcome to the rabbit hole. Do you know who posted this picture and where this picture is from? I do. It's the same person who posted this picture, and I will not tell you what they're doing. Someone outlined it for you. Sometimes the big guy is the little girl. This is Rachel Chandler. Here's Rachel with P. Diddy, and it says here she's 14. This is her saying it too. Billy boy. She just happens to make it around the most famous of people. Britney Spears knows a lot about this. She also worked for Midland Casting, which was partnered with Balenciaga. Those models look so happy, don't they? I mean, seriously, who is this woman?
She looks like a long-running victim. Looks like she's been passed around to all the top players in the Epstein group. She's in all these photos with celebrities at the age of 14. She would have to be a victim. But the main reason I put this in here is I just came across it, and I'm curious if someone can tell me or explain to me what's in that second photo. And if it's something that's too graphic for the comment section on YouTube, post it in the Discord.
Let's talk about how the Soviet Union has 69 years of classified events that we'll never know of. For real, that's actually how long they lasted for. But the discovery of the Tsul princess is one of the few deep dark secrets that managed to see the light of day. Back in 1969, nice, near the village of Tusulski in the Russian tundra of Siberia, a team of coal miners were busy digging deep into the ground. They were about 70 meters, which is 21 stories straight down. When the miners hit a wall that felt looser than the rest, like it was hollow on the inside. They struck it real hard and the rubble came crumbling down, uncovering a hidden tunnel that they definitely did not dig themselves. A few of them go inside this tunnel to see what's in there, and before long they come across something that none of them expected to find. A closed coffin, like 70 meters deep underground in a coal mine hidden inside a previously unknown tunnel system. This was something big. They dust it off and realize this ain't no regular coffin, but an ornately decorated white marble sarcophagus about 8 feet in length. Whatever this was, it was special, and the higher-ups would be paying big bucks for it. The miners tell their plant managers, who take a look and instantly call in the military for full extraction. But they all realized once the Soviet army comes in, they're probably never going to see this coffin ever again. Hoping to get something out of this monumental discovery, they managed to pry open the lid to find the body of a perfectly preserved woman inside, wearing a slightly see-through dress. She appeared to be about 30 years old, but the most interesting thing about her was that she was fully submerged in a pink liquid that filled the entire coffin. Her eyes were also wide open and was so well preserved that she almost looked like she was still alive. The army gets there and they try to lift the sarcophagus out of the mine shaft, but it's way too heavy to move. So, thinking nothing of it, they drained the liquid from the coffin to lighten the load, too quickly to realize just how grave this mistake was. As soon as the pink liquid emptied from around the woman, she instantly started to decay and turn black. Turns out, whatever this liquid was, it seemed to be preserving her to near perfection. They airlift it out of there and bring the coffin to a research lab where the scientists could not for the life of them identify what the pink liquid could have been. And when they dated the corpse to see how old the woman was, no one could believe what age they got. Immediately after this, the mine was shut down. The miners all let go, letting the military take over the facility in the 70s. The village of Tusulski nearby all hear about this find and the army takeover, and everyone's talking about it. With many residents from the town very clearly recall hearing about it at school and all over the news at the time. For all they knew, this wasn't a myth. It actually happened. When the KGB starts investigating the matter, all of a sudden the news stations stop talking about it, and follow-up reports come out saying that it was all false information. And just like that, the entire discovery is painted as a hoax. Until decades later, when the Soviet Union fell, military operations like these got declassified, and articles reporting on it brought it back to the public eye. But the real craziest, most unbelievable part of it all, this coffin is allegedly said to have been over 800 million years old.
Holy crap. A 30-year-old body preserved for hundreds of millions of years in a mysterious pink liquid. I'd be going back and scooping that stuff off the floor. Now, we've covered this story once before on the channel, but I didn't know about her being dated to 800 million years old. I'm just curious how they arrived at that number and how accurate was their method of testing, because that sounds ridiculous.
So he met secretly with these members of the Department of Defense, and they told him that they were part of a non-existent group inside the DoD, and they began to engage in occult rituals to communicate with these entities. Now, he says that their bigger group was engaging in what he called satanic rituals, and he even said that the DoD contacts hinted at human sacrifice being done on the taxpayer dollar behind closed doors on government facilities on Operation High Jump. This was a joint task force between the American government, the British government, and the Australian government, headed by the U.S. and Admiral Byrd. They go down to Antarctica and what turns into a UFO battle. And their big plan got cut in half, and they had to come home early because we lost men, we lost ships. There's stories of UFOs coming up out of the water and just cutting ships in half with laser. I mean, just crazy stuff that you only see in movies. What's fascinating about this is that this was a joint task force with those same three governments that are now working together with Standeo, the British, the American, and the Australians working together on alien technology yet again. Years after Operation High Jump happened, Standeo was working as a secret agent for the FBI in Australia inside of the deep underground military bases. And he said while he was in the program, he knew about the deal with Eisenhower. He knew in the program that President Eisenhower had made a deal with what they called alien entities. I believe that the evidence points to two events taking place, and these two events happened 1 year apart. The first one happened at Edwards Air Force Base, where Eisenhower disappears, and they call it a media blackout. It was kind of similar to when Hillary Clinton and President Obama disappeared and were at the Bilderberg meeting, but nobody knew where they were, and it was called the media blackout. People freaked out, right? Well, something similar happened here, where Eisenhower is no longer on radar, and they come back later and say, oh, well, he had a dental emergency, and so he had to go seek private dental care. Now, that happened, and then a year later, we have the Holloman Air Force Base event. Now, the thing about the Holloman event was that people were there who witnessed it. Holloman is where they were out on the landing strip, and you had UFOs landing, meeting with him. Meeting took place with Eisenhower and others, and then those UFOs took off. Now, there were eyewitnesses who have come forward. I was just talking about this with Chad Riley because he found some videotapes from the 90s of some of these disclosure type engagements. I don't know what you want to call it, but these are men that were there. They're decorated men from the government, and they're now speaking out that yes, UFOs were landing and taking off at Holloman Air Force Base, and I believe it was 1955.
The Immaculate Constellation hearings are supposed to be happening in 5 days. Wouldn't it be amazing if we actually got confirmation on some of this stuff? It would probably be terrifying to get confirmation that the government signed some sort of a deal with aliens to allow them to abduct us. But man, it would be fascinating to get some confirmation on some of these old stories. Trying not to get my hopes up, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
The telomere drug, it's like a pill, right? And it's in trials right now. And it is a anti-aging, cancer-reducing, chronic pain cure. And did a trial run on dogs. And this one lady who had this dog, I think the dog was like 12 years old. It was dying of cancer. She's like, can I just try it on my dog? She said within a week, dog's up running around, cancer-free. But what's crazy is that they did this interview, and by the time the interview came out, the CEO dead.
What?
The CEO died, and on their official statement, the family was like, we do not wish to disclose of how he died.
Spooky. I smell murder.
Yeah, maybe. But now they're going to start doing human trials mid-2025.
Sign me up.
Isn't this like the beginning of I Am Legend?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a pill that could cure.
Drug.
Yeah, had that miracle drug, and then all of a sudden we're all zombies.
I hope I have Will Smith next to me.
I wonder if this is supposed to have something to do with the telomeres on the end of your DNA strands, or if it's just referencing that in the name. So I don't know how I would feel about that. Tinkering with our DNA sounds like it could only end terribly. It'll come out regardless of how I feel about it, though. So I guess I just hope it works. I'm all for human longevity. I just hope we don't corrupt our DNA or something in an effort to get there.
Who is the creator of the simulation?
Some people say it's aliens. There was a professor at Oxford who wrote a paper about this back in 2003 named Nick Bostrom, and he thinks it's future versions of ourselves. So he thinks we're in what we'd call an ancestor simulation. Like if we created a game of ancient Rome, they would be like our ancestors in a way. There are others who say it's God or pure consciousness outside of the matrix. So all the religions, not just any specific religion, but pretty much all of them have been telling us that the physical world is not the real world, that there's another world out there beyond this. And so that's yet another theory of what's outside.
Do you believe this is probable, possible?
I believe it's probable, like more than a 50% chance that we are inside some type of
One of the most fascinating things to me about simulation theory is the evidence of code within our universe. At the very core of all computers and processors, they store all information in a simple 1 or 0 system. This is called binary. Think of it like an on-off switch. 1 is on, 0 is off. Now you might think to yourself, well, programmers don't write in 1s and 0s. No, they don't. They write in simplified languages, but the computer translates that information to binary. Here's my username in binary. All of the information, all of it, on the vast internet is reduced to 1s and 0s. What is extremely fascinating to me is across the spectrum of spirituality, they talk about duality. What's fascinating to me is when you look at the duality of like reproductive organs, it's a 1 and a 0. This is why it's often referred to as binary versus like non-binary. What's fascinating is all of these 1s and 0s, they make everything, pictures, sounds. This is the very famous physicist John Wheeler. He constructed a theory that he calls it from bit, where everything in the visible universe contains this information of 1s and 0s, the on-off switch, and from that reality is constructed. When I say everything, I mean everything, from the smallest little particle to entire galaxies and their construction. Wheeler proposed that physical reality is not fundamental, but rather that we create everything we observe. This means that information that exists all around us is more fundamental than physical matter. Essentially meaning a coder created The Sims. That language, that code was translated into 0s and 1s, and it created the reality that The Sims exist in. They became conscious and started looking around using science, mathematics, spirituality, all these different vehicles to learn and explain the reality. You would see the evidence of the 0s and the 1s in the coding because that is the true existence. What they perceive is just a manifestation of that coding. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I love spirituality, shamanism, esoteric knowledge. What's wild to me is when you look at the world's religions, belief systems, it's crazy because a lot of the thought leaders in all these different sectors, their messaging could be translated as evidence that we live in a simulation. Simulation that is a projection from a super consciousness. That super consciousness is both what gives us life, makes us the conscious observer of creation. But it's insane to me. It literally breaks my brain that all of the information in the world can be distilled down to this. I promise you, when you start looking for it, you will see it everywhere. It is fascinating to look at the concept of duality from the perspective of binary code. It kind of breaks your brain.
I would say at this point that I feel like it's highly likely that we live in a simulation. I'm not convinced that we do, but I think it's more likely that we do than we don't. Just considering how close we are now to creating a virtual world that's almost indistinguishable from our own in Unreal Engine 5. If it's not indistinguishable, we'll be there within the next probably decade. The only thing that keeps me from fully believing it is that I'm not convinced yet that we'll ever create true artificial intelligence. And I think artificial intelligence would be a requirement to make the Matrix function.
Just crying, screaming, Daddy, 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 so-and-so said this about me. And I looked at her, now look, every little girl wants their daddy to say, oh, that's okay, it'll be all right. But I looked at her, I said, so what? And she sobered up. This is a true story. She sobered up like that. I said, was it true? She said, no. I said, it doesn't matter then, does it? And I said, if it was true, could you change? She said, yeah. I said, then it doesn't matter, does it? She said, no. And I said, it doesn't matter what somebody else says about you. What matters is what you say about you. And Morgan, my younger daughter, was listening. She wasn't saying a word. And like I say, this is a true story. 2 weeks later, she came running off the bus, only she was excited. She said, Dad, so-and-so said this about me. And I looked at her and I said, that's what you say. That's not what I say. But I'm just telling you, if everybody just get this. So they're talking. You cannot be offended without your permission. Okay? I could call you every name in the book. So what? Who cares? What do you believe about yourself? That's what's important.
And that was our good clip of the day. I think this is so true, and it's such a difficult concept to grasp. I used to be constantly worried about what everybody else thought about me whenever I was younger, and it is a miserable existence. But once you realize that everyone else is equally worried about themselves, you realize that they're not focusing on you. Most people, in fact, don't even notice you, so you're panicking over nothing. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I'm excited to get started on my weekend. I hope everyone enjoyed the clips we watched together today. I'll be back on Monday with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out www.barry-stepp.com if you'd like to order yourself a shirt or a hat or a hoodie. And don't forget to post your photos of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.